What's up? It's Brian from USA Cards on a Hobby Drive this morning, and I was just listening to a couple other creators and content creators here on YouTube, and I don't know, it seems to be everybody's talking about leaving the hobby. They don't like the direction that Fanatics is taking it. They don't like this non-licensed stuff, this Wimby Mercury box that's like $8,000. Somebody did the math on it, and I think it was Cage, and he somehow got to 3,000 boxes using math, not just guessing. 3,000 times 8,000 is $24 million on unlicensed basketball cards driven by Wimby, and that's making some people mad and pushing people away. The breaks, the high wax prices, the repacks, all these things, the like theft, right, that's going on, people stealing now. I mean, theft's gonna affect can affect anybody and everybody, no matter how you collect, and that's really unfortunate to have people that would do that, because nobody is immune to that, and it just ruins the joy, robs the joy from any aspect of life if you get ripped off or if somebody steals something. But largely, the rest of the stuff doesn't affect me, and I don't think should affect you. Whether you're my age-ish, you had a run with cards when you were a kid, and maybe you came back in the last 5-10 years and rediscovered, the hobby that you love. And I think really the foundation of card collecting is just love of sports and wanting to be connected to our favorite sports, favorite athletes, favorite teams, moments. But I hear a lot of people saying that it's becoming a place to gamble, and that's going to somehow ruin the hobby. And I just don't see how gambling, whether it be breaks or repacks, what have you, affects somebody who loves sports and wants to be police officer, somebody who loves sports and wants to explore the hobby of collecting cards so that they can be closer to those sports and athletes and whatnot. I think that you kind of get out what you put into this thing. And that just doesn't go with money, right? That goes with effort. If you're a lazy collector and you just want the little thrill or whatever of opening something and discovering what's inside, you're gonna opt for a repack, or there's nothing wrong with wax. Wax is that, if it wasn't for wax, there would be none of this, right? If it wasn't for opening the packs of cards, then how would singles buyers ever be able to find these cards? But if you don't enjoy the process of learning about different sets and their rarities, and learning about different athletes, right, and following them, and whether you're collecting a team, an athlete, rare cards, base cards, patch autos, it doesn't matter. The more targeted you can get, and I think that's what collecting is. It's deciding. That's 50% of it, and then acquiring is the other 50%. Maybe it's 33, 33, 33, where it's deciding, it's acquiring, and then it's enjoying, right? But if you don't have the desire or the what's the right word? Passion's so overused. If you can't enjoy, like I said, the process of going out, and maybe you start with the years that you were collecting the most. Maybe you're like me and it was the early to mid 80s. Maybe it was the early to mid 90s. Maybe you're just 15 years old and it's now, right? Start there go, research what cards were happening in those years, what companies were making what sets, what players are featured. Pick out a price point that you're comfortable with, whether it be raw, whether it be graded, whether it be 9s, whether it be 10s. There's so many decisions that you can make. And that's the beautiful part about collecting, is making decisions. I often say that, like, having a collection is almost like managing a fantasy team. There's trades, and there's purchases, and there's cuts. And like when you cut a player or you sell a card, and it's trying to build the best team or the best collection. And of course you want to see you don't want to see anything go down. You don't want to see a guy get hurt in fantasy. You don't want to see a card tank. But the decision-making process is the whole building block of collecting, and if you don't enjoy that, if you just like to get into breaks or buy into repacks and see what happens, then I don't know if that's sustainable. I just don't know if human beings, that have probably a 10% chance of coming out even on something, taking a risk, can sustain prolonged bleeding of finances. But just because Fanatics is making these insane non-licensed sets, or repackers are buying up all the singles, that's so largely ineffective to, I'd say, 95% of the hobby. So how are you going to leave, or how are you going to become disgruntled by what the lazy collectors, or I won't even say collectors, what the lazy folks in this thing are doing? And the companies cater to that. Come on. But they're always going to have the flagship sets, the numbered cards, the things that collectors need and want in this hobby for themselves. So, even if you don't have a ton of money, even if you are saving up for your next card show, I encourage you to pick a set, pick a year, pick a player, and just do some dives, just some deep dives. It's a nice break from the politics. I often do it while I'm watching sports, and then I take pictures of the cards that I like on eBay. And I don't own the card, but it's almost like I own a piece of the research, right? I've got this researched, I've got this, now I can talk about it, I can even make a video about it, or I can just have it as something maybe to try to chase down in the future. But you can start, a virtual collection. Just make a little album on your phone and go do some research and take some pictures of cards. Enjoy that aspect. And if that is largely unappealing to you, then don't do it, because there's no wrong way. But I just don't understand how people who say they love the hobby, have been collectors at different parts in their lives, can become so jaded by what's going on right now with all the gambling aspects and all the seemingly worthless sets. Like, who cares? Who cares about all that stuff? And if you feel like you're spending too much money on stuff, I get it. Just scale everything back. Make it a rule for yourself. Like, okay, all my cards are going to be $20 or less. And see what team or collection or PC you can build on those type of cards, because there's some really great cards out there that are not expensive. There's a guy named what's his name? He's in Dallas. Radicards, Radicards, who's a very passionate and super knowledgeable collector, and I enjoy his content. He's got a channel here on YouTube. He goes to the show, Dallas shows, and he highlights his pickups. And man, when I tell you he spends $20 a show, maybe, that's what he does. But he finds these really obscure and cool and relevant and meaningful cards that he can talk about, and he does like a little 30-minute wrap up. of what he picked up at the show, and he's got like a website that he has a museum. He calls it his museum, where he keeps all his most like prized PC cards. So he has to decide, you know, whether things make the museum or not. I don't know. It's just really cool. And after you research and after you acquire, the other part of this is to enjoy, and that's one way he enjoys it. So ultimately, guys, the hobby is for you what you make it, and it is what you put in. You get out what you put in. So just thought I'd share that while I'm out running some errands today, and I have a card to show. So even though they've been eliminated, I've been looking for this card for a while, and I found one that was in line with recent comps. And the last comp on this particular card in this grade was in 22, I believe. I think this guy's gonna make the Hall of Fame. Salvador Perez. There are no 10s on this card. And I didn't check right before I filmed this, but I think there's, I don't know, a handful of 9s. Like maybe less than 10. It's out of 150. It's blue. And it's gorgeous. Look at this thing, man. 2010 Bowman Chrome. First Bowman for Salvador Perez. That's a facsimile auto, but he didn't have any autos. Just gorgeous. Well centered. I've seen other 9s, and it might be a little bottom to top heavy, but right to left it's pretty close. On the back it gets a little again, top to bottom, but it's more centered than some of the other 9s. And I don't know if this set just had a problem with centering or what, but yeah, it was. And this is just the kind of card I like. I like the 9s that have 1 or 2 or no 10s, right? Because they still sell for 9 prices, but they're essentially 10s. So sad to see the Royals eliminated. Sad to see Bobby struggle, to be honest. But I would pick this up no matter what. These just don't come up. And there's 2 on eBay. I think they're around 800 or best, which is just ridiculous. But such a cool card, such a nice color match with the Dodgers here, interestingly. But yep, so I picked that up. Anyway, guys, thanks for hanging out. Appreciate it. Like I said, I challenge you to go make a little virtual PC while you're scrolling. You know? And it kind of feels like you bought it, even though you didn't. You still have a picture of it. I mean, essentially all my cards are in my office. That picture's on my phone. And that's how I consume my cards mostly, is scrolling back on my phone. But I don't know. What are your thoughts? What do you think? Are you unaffected or are you disgruntled? Which is it? Let me know in the comments. See you guys on the next one. Bye.